Hello, and welcome back to our Flower Power Portfolio Challenge. So far, we have gone over the design brief in detail, created our thumbnail sketches, worked on our hero illustration, and today we're going to actually take some elements from that hero illustration and we are going to transform them into a simple supporting repeat pattern. Hello friends, welcome back to our 5-day challenge where we are creating a mini floral collection together. And today we are going to create our secondary repeat pattern. For today's lesson, I'm going to be using Adobe Illustrator to create this pattern. If you don't have Adobe Illustrator, stay tuned because I'm going to show you a different method of creating a repeat pattern completely using the Procreate app. Are you ready? Let's dive in. Before we start making the pattern, I want to explain to you the difference between a vector repeat pattern and a pattern made out of pixels. So when we are building repeat patterns in Adobe Illustrator, we are creating what's called vector art, meaning that the art can be enlarged as much as we would ever want it to be, and we would never lose the crispness of the image. So something made in Adobe Illustrator could be as small as the size of a stamp for an envelope, or you could blow it up as big as a billboard, and it would never lose its crispness. However, whenever we're making repeat patterns in other programs, we're doing that as a pixel. And here's two examples so that you can see the difference. The same pattern, one created in Adobe Illustrator and one created in Procreate. So whenever you're working in Procreate or you're working in Photoshop to make designs or illustrations, you'll notice that if you enlarge it, eventually it becomes less crisp and you begin to see all the pixels in the art. So I wanted to explain that before we dive into making our vector repeat pattern today in Adobe Illustrator. And with that, let's get into making the repeat pattern. Whenever I was creating my thumbnail sketches, I had already decided that I thought my little daisies would be the best part of the hero illustration to create my repeat design. Here's a preview of what we're going to create today. I took the little daisy designs that are on the exterior parts of my illustration and I just turned them into a simple repeat pattern. These types of patterns are super helpful because they actually lend themselves to support the hero illustration, but they're interesting on their own. Here's another example with a little bit more detail. These are chamomile flowers and some of my favorite line work in the background, but you can also do a simple repeat pattern just like this. These are my little flower illustrations. This is an example that I created in Adobe Illustrator. Whenever you're making a seamless repeat pattern, any element that comes off the left-hand side of your canvas must repeat on the right-hand side of your canvas, and anything on the top of your canvas must repeat on the bottom of your canvas. Do you see how these dots repeat themselves on top and on bottom, on left and on right? I want you to know this before we jump in to our project today. To start today's lesson, I want you to go ahead and pull out your hero illustration. If you've created on Procreate, go ahead and create a duplicate copy of this canvas so we can work fresh. If you're not using Procreate, just go ahead and pull out that illustration and we're going to trace some elements or pull out some elements from this illustration to turn into a simple supporting pattern. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to delete all the layers that I don't want to use in my repeat pattern. So I'm deleting a bunch of layers and what I'm left with are two layers, my yellow layer and my white layer. Then I'm going to erase everything but my daisies because I don't need anything else to make my repeat pattern. And from these little daisies, we're going to make an entire swatch. From here, I'm going to show you a little trick. I'm actually going to create my repeat pattern, like I said, in Adobe Illustrator. And to do that, we're going to use the Live Trace option in Adobe Illustrator. But Live Trace doesn't like to work on white things like white daisies. So I'm going to actually change the color of my elements into neutral colors, so black and gray. I'm going to change these colors back once we're in Adobe Illustrator, but Live Trace just doesn't do well with light colors, no matter how much I've adjusted it. So this will get you a cleaner Live Trace whenever we go into Adobe Illustrator. So once I have my two layers all settled in and my colors neutralized, I'm going to go to the toolbar in the upper left-hand corner and I'm going to click Share. And I'm going to actually export this design as a PSD, a Photoshop file. Now we're not opening Photoshop, but Photoshop files are layered and we could open up this layered file in Adobe Illustrator and recolor our designs and build our repeat pattern. So once I've exported it, I'm going to send it to my computer. And now we're going to flash forward to my computer. We are in Adobe Illustrator. I'm going to click File and I'm going to click Open. I'm going to find my Photoshop file and I'm going to open it. I'm going to make sure that I open it so that my layers are separate and not combined into a flat object. You can see what we had in Procreate is now here open in Adobe Illustrator, and the two layers are preserved. In order for us to be able to use the Live Trace option in Adobe Illustrator, and remember, Live Trace is only in Adobe Illustrator, but what it does is it takes a drawing or something you've imported that's pixel-based, and it's going to transform it into a vector piece of art, and we can enlarge it as much as we want, and it's not going to ever lose its crispness. And before I get started, I want to check and make sure that my canvas size is correct. Remember, we're working in an 8 by 8 inch canvas. In order to do that, you'll go to Properties, and you're going to click Edit Artboard, and there you can see the size of your canvas, which is 8 by 8 inches, which is exactly what we want. Now I'm going to go back to the Layers tab, and I'm going to rename my layers for clarity. So the bottom layer is where the petals live, and the top layer is the inside of the petals, calling it circles. Now that those are separate, I'm going to hide the circles layer, and I'm going to go and transform my flowers. Now take a look at this. Whenever I move the petals layer, you can see how all the petals are together. I can't separate them or individualize them. And Live Trace is going to fix that for me. I'm going to select the layer, so it's going to be green. That way I know that my layer is selected. I'm going to go to the Windows menu at the top of my screen, and I'm going to scroll down, and I'm going to scroll until I see the Image Trace option. I'm going to select Image Trace, and then my dialog box is going to open up. Now, Image Trace can do a lot of cool things for you. You have different modes you can work in: black and white, color, grayscale. You also have different view options and preset options, such as high fidelity photo, low fidelity photo, 3 color, 6 color, etc. We're going to keep it simple and work with the default setting. Something that you want to do in order to make sure that you are not having to repeat any processes is go down to the advanced area, that little triangle. We're going to click it until it opens up an advanced menu for us. And from there, there's a little option that says Ignore White. By selecting Ignore White, that means whenever the transformation happens, taking our artwork from pixel-based to vector-based, all we will be left with is the black element of our design. Let's go ahead and select Ignore White so that we don't have to delete anything later. It's simpler this way. And then from that, we're going to click Preview, and you can't see it yet, but your illustration has already been transformed into the beginnings of the vector-based piece of art. In order to complete the transformation, we're going to go to the menu where it says Object, and we're going to open that up, and we're going to select Expand. And whenever that dialog box opens up, we're going to make sure that we have both of those check boxes filled in at the top under Expand. We want Object selected and Fill selected, and then we're going to select OK. And watch what happens. The petals now have green outlines around them, and that means that each individual part of this layer is now a separate object that's vector-based. If we try to move this entire layer, still all of our flowers are together, and we want to be able to separate them so we can move them freely from one another. And to do that, we're going to go back to the Object menu, and we're going to simply ungroup. But we don't ungroup once, we ungroup twice. And after we've ungrouped twice, we have a bunch of individual flowers that we can move around freely from one another. We're going to now repeat the process for our little circles. So I'm going to fast forward that, but we're going to, again, Live Trace, Ignore White, Preview, select OK, go to Object, Expand, select OK, go to Object, Ungroup, and then Object, Ungroup again. Now that we have both of our layers turned into vector pieces of art, we're going to do a quick recolor so that we can see what we're working with. I'm going to take the top layer and I'm going to make it white where those circles are so that whenever both layers are visible, we can actually see flowers instead of 2 layers of black. And now, in order to finish making the repeat pattern, I'm going to do something just for the sake of simplicity. I'm actually going to delete all but one of our flowers, and from that, I'm going to create an entire repeat pattern. So I'm left with one cute little flower. And from here, it's time to build our repeat pattern. I'm going to copy and paste my flower over and over again, but in between each copy and paste, I'm going to rotate my flower 15 degrees. And I'm going to continue to copy and paste until I have an entire row of flowers that can go across the entire length of my swatch, my 8-inch swatch. At this time, you can manually distribute your flowers by moving them around a little bit to make it look like they're visually equally distributed. And now that I have enough flowers to fill the length of my swatch, I'm going to select all of my flowers. I'm going to drag them all to the left-hand side of my canvas so that the first flower is actually kind of split in the middle between the outside of the canvas and the inside of the canvas. And then I'm going to take that first flower that's on the left-hand side, and just like I showed you at the beginning of this lesson, everything that goes on the left-hand side of your canvas must continue to the right side. So I'm going to copy and paste this flower, and then I'm going to go to the Properties menu. And here's a fun trick if you don't know this already. You can go to the X-axis and go to the very end of where all those letters and numbers are after inches, and you're simply going to select +8 because we know that this canvas is 8 inches long. And so by adding 8 to the end of the X-axis and clicking enter, it's going to move that copied flower all the way over perfectly 8 inches so that your repeat will be perfect. Now that I have this, I'm going to continue to finesse my line, make sure it looks just the way I want. I'm going to select all of my flowers, and I am going to copy and paste them, and I'm going to distribute them down the length of my canvas. I'm going to leave space in between each row of flowers because soon I'm going to put more flowers in between them, and it's going to make a more visually appealing repeat pattern. I'm going to select all of my flowers now, and I'm going to drag them all the way to the top. And again, I'm going to repeat what I just did on the left-hand side of my canvas. I'm going to drag the top row of my flowers all the way up to the top of my canvas until they're split in the middle, half of them going off the canvas and half of them actually inside the canvas. And I bet you can guess what we're going to do next. I'm going to select that top row, and I'm going to copy and paste it, and I'm going to go back to the Properties menu to the Y-axis. I'm going to go to the end of where it says inches, and I'm going to add +8. And just like magic, it's going to move that duplicated row of flowers to the bottom of my canvas, and it will allow me now to have a perfect seamless repeat pattern. Now, if all I did was this, I could have a repeat pattern, but it's not filled in enough. We need more flowers. So I'm going to begin to distribute my flower rows that are identical right here so that I like just the way it's looking visually. And from here, I'm going to select a row of my flowers. I'm going to copy that row, and I'm going to paste in place right on top of the existing row, and I'm going to begin to drag that in between the first 2 rows of flowers that existed. So in order to make it more fun, I'm going to offset that row by moving it over to the left. But because I want it to feel a little bit more random, not like a perfect repeat of each flower, I'm going to go to the Object menu with that new row selected. I'm going to select Transform and Reflect. With the Reflect dialog box open, I'm going to select a vertical reflection, and that's actually going to take my entire row of flowers and just flip-flop it so that my flower row is a mirror image of what it was previously. And now I'm going to copy and paste that row of flowers over and over again and drag it down so that every other row of flowers now is offset. After I filled in the entire swatch, I'm going to delete those extra flowers that I don't need on the left-hand side. But now I want you to notice something. Previously, our dots were on one layer and our flowers were on another. Now, I like to keep all of my elements, my like elements, on the same layer so that it's really easy to recolor. So our next job is to make sure that we're separating those dots in our flowers on one layer from our black petals on a different layer. And the best way to do this is to hold down the Shift key while you actually drag your cursor across a row of flowers, only touching a black element of each flower. And you'll notice that all those flowers are now selected. And the ones that are red are on one layer, and the original flower we were working with is on the green layer. We want all those flowers on the red layer to go over to the green layer. So while holding down the Shift key, we're going to begin to select every single flower, just row by row, keep it held down, and just drag your cursor across, grabbing a little element of each black flower. And with all of those flowers selected, we're going to cut them, which is Command X, and then we're going to select the next layer, the layer that we want them all on, which is that bottom layer, the green layer, and we're going to paste in place. You can either do Command F or you can do the Shift Command V for paste in place. And you'll see we missed one little straggler, so I'm going to go ahead and move him over so he's on the right layer. And now our dots are on one layer and our petals are on the other. And we're really close now, we just have a few more things to do. The next thing we need to do is actually put color into our pattern. So I like to take a shortcut. I'm going to actually just take a screenshot of the colors from the design brief, and I'm going to place them onto our canvas temporarily. So I'm going to create a new layer. I'm going to call it temporary. I've already taken the screenshot. It was saved to my computer. I'm going to go to File, Place, and then I'm going to place my screenshot, which is just on my desktop, right onto the canvas. I'm going to go to Properties and Embed, and I'm going to click OK. I will go to Window in the top menu, select Swatches from the drop-down menu, And then our swatches dialog box opens up. I'm going to take the eyedropper tool. I'm going to click on the first color, which is that kind of rosy pink. Once it is selected, the color swatch will turn pink. I'm going to drag that top pink color swatch down into these swatches, and now I have a pink swatch that we can use later on to recolor. And I'll repeat this until all of my colors are repeated. So let's go ahead and unlock. You'll see where the lock is. We want to click it so it's unlocked. I'm going to use the shortcut Command A to select all of the circles, and I'm going to select a color. I'm going to try pink first. I'm going to lock that layer and unlock the petals layer, and I'm going to select all of my flowers and try a new color. We're going to go with this kind of olive green. And now we need a background layer. So I'm going to add a new layer at the bottom of the layers menu. You're going to click the button that allows you to add a new layer. I'm going to drag it to the bottom. I'm going to go ahead and rename it background. I'll lock the top two layers. And in order to make a perfect background layer, I'm going to go to the rectangle option. I'm going to double click it and a dialog box will open up. I'm going to type in 8 by 8 inches because that's the size that we're working with, and I'm going to click OK. In order to center the rectangle perfectly, we're going to go back to the Properties tab. I'm going to click that, and I'm going to then just type in 4 on the x-axis and 4 on the y-axis, and that will perfectly center our background layer. In order to see it, I'm going to give it a color. Let's give that background layer a color. I'm going to select red. And now I'm going to just play around with different color combinations. I'm going to unlock each layer and I'm going to select all and try different color combinations until I land on something that I like. I like the white petal with the pink center and then kind of this coral color background. I'm pretty happy with that. And you might think your repeat pattern is done, but it's not. With all of the layers unlocked, I'm going to select all, Command A, and with all the layers selected, I'm going to grab all the layers and drag it over to the swatches menu. Now we've created a new swatch with our repeat pattern. Now I'm going to create a rectangle and we're going to fill it with our repeat pattern, but you're going to see a mistake that a lot of people make when working in Adobe Illustrator. Whenever we actually fill that rectangle with our new repeat pattern, we have all these clear spaces in between our swatch. It's not actually, so I'm going to delete this and show you the last step. On the background layer, we actually need not only that colored square, we need a transparent square the exact same size behind it, so there will actually be two objects on your bottom layer, a transparent 8 by 8 inch square and then your colored 8 by 8 inch square. In order to do that, I'm going to select my coral square and I'm going to make a copy of it, and then I'm going to paste it to the very back of my canvas. And here's what it looks like. You won't be able to really see it, but you're going to have this transparent square in the back of your canvas. So I'm going to make sure that it's perfectly behind my coral square because we don't want any issues with our repeat pattern. We want it to seamlessly repeat. So I'm going to center it by doing 4 on the x-axis and 4 on the y-axis while that transparent square is selected. And now we're going to repeat what we just did. We're going to unlock all the layers. We're going to select them all and drag them up to the swatches menu. And now when we make our rectangle, fill it with our new swatch, we are going to have a perfect repeat pattern. There it is. Isn't that a cute little daisy pattern? It's a perfect complement to your hero illustration, and from here you would save it and you will have a repeat pattern. We've completed our first repeat pattern. I hope that this makes a lot of sense to you.
In the next video, I'm going to teach you an even simpler way to make a repeat pattern directly in Procreate. Be sure to tag me in your creations on Instagram. I would love to see them, and leave me any question in the comments below. I will see you in the next video when we are creating our Blender pattern. Bye!